the Stinky Popcorn Boys.
We watch movies and eat popcorn. And you're stinky.
Hello. We are the Stinky Popcorn Boys. Just some boys talking about movies and how they made us feel. I am Patrick Baskell, and I do have a soft spot for hot dogs.
And I'm John Gilardi, and I talk to all plants, fake or real. So, I mean, what? It's like plants and talking to plants and hot dogs. What movie are we talking about?
If you know, you
week?
know.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. But sure. I don't think that there's a way that you could guess based on those two intros.
Yeah. No. So and this isn't a new movie. It's a pretty. I mean, it's a movie from 2008.
Yeah. So I'll give you our today. We're going to be talking about the 2008 eco thriller that spawned a few memes and maybe was a meme. The eighth film from horror thriller wonderkind, the master of the twist and local son of Philadelphia, as he always fucking tells you. He was not born in Philadelphia, but he did grow up there. M Night Shyamalan, The Happening.
So, we're doing The Happening. I guess you'd be asking why. Well, why not? I guess is always a good answer. But it does have a lot of kind of pandemic kind of theming in a sense, and we are living in a pandemic.
Pandemic and mass hysteria, which is, I think, one of the ways that this movie actually does work. Yeah, is as a movie about mass hysteria. Yeah,
because I think there's a lot of parallels we can draw with what we're going through today,
and misinformation too.
Yeah,
as they like even as they're starting stuff off. So like sort of the synopsis of this movie is the U.S. Northeast is struck by a mysterious toxin/terrorist attack that makes people kill themselves, and people flee en masse. Yeah. And there's mass panic.
Yeah, essentially, I guess it's some neurotoxin that it makes people suicidal, but it also blocks the inhibitors in the brain of self-harm, I guess. And so it's pretty dark.
It is pretty dark. Let's.
But it explores, like you said, a lot of interesting things with mass hysteria, misinformation.
Yeah. I
mean, I think it's a pretty stupid movie. I'll go out and say that right away.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a meme movie.
Yeah.
But I actually think there actually is a lot to take away from the movie.
I think it's
a lot of discussion it can spark, which is, I guess, a big credit to it, and almost maybe a sense of its timelessness, which is pretty impressive. I
think that there's a lot. It's interesting because I think this movie is awful. Yeah. Like empirically, it's just bad movie. But I think that from like sort of like a film perspective, it's like, why is this movie bad? We can kind of explore that. Like, what about this movie is bad? Because that's one of the things that, Stephen King is really good at, or even like H.P. Lovecraft, is like sort of like your unnamed or unshaped horror, and what that does to people is kind of something that those guys go back to again and again, is the effect of an unnamed or unavailable horror, and the effect that has on people, and what they do to each other even then. And you see that countless throughout, like Dawn of the Dead, throughout various things. It's like what humans do to themselves and within their groups.
Yeah.
In like fucking catastrophic events is very telling of the human condition. And so it's like, why is this bad?
Well, I think
my God,
we can go into why it's bad, but I think there's a level of like perverseness with the fact that it's suicide. Mm-hmm. In the sense of how you're witnessing this, like so it's a zombie apocalypse, or even like an element of nature, like big waves and storms and stuff. And you see that horror, there is that kind of like spectacle of shit going crazy. But in this, it's spectacleizing, self-harm, which is, I guess, just weird to watch.
Yeah.
So it feels super visceral, which is weird. Where instead of a tidal wave in a movie, that's like, oh shit, that's wild, crazy special effects. But in this, the kind of the outside force without any answers is you're seeing the result very directly, and you don't know why, but you're seeing the result, and the way it keeps hitting you, I guess it's
just people killing themselves.
Yeah, which is not ever
fun
to watch.
Which is like such a weird, because it is kind of like a weird personal thing. like it's such taking your own life or and that's why like I don't know, this is a weird tangent, but this is where my brain went. But like seeing people have sex, like imagine if it was like kind of the other thing where it's like there's like seeing people have sex, so like sort of like the act of creating life and then the act of taking life is like such an intimate thing that it's like it feels weird to have the oomph taken away from it. I feel like is one of the things that kind of struck me again and again is to have people like dispassionately stabbing themselves in the neck or just like, oh, here I'm a lemming. I'm just going to jump over the side.
Or I'm going to walk underneath I'm going to turn on a lawnmower and then just lay down on the ground and wait for it to come to me.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a completely different way to do the disaster movie. Or even a monster movie. Like it was really interesting, and I think the effect of the hysteria and the unknownness to it, and that deep personal weird kind of way of handling a death, just created such a, I don't know, just like them running away on the train, them going through the small town America, in the fields, like it felt kind of like pretty realistic in terms of like that's what it'd be like if shit went down and we lost all connection. You would just be in bumfuck someplace trying to figure it out. Even if it was like even if we got invaded or something, like you would be isolated. And I think due to the nature of it being a virus that causes self-harm is already an isolating thing, so it just like there's like this kind of isolated loneliness that the film just, I guess, works with, and it makes that kind of pandemic, post-apocalyptic feeling really unique. And I think it ends up doing really well. Probably one of the few, if not one of the only good things it does, besides having a lot of things to talk about with mass hysteria and misinformation, I guess.
Yeah. I think that we can get into that more as something that like the movie like does. So, but let's talk about the actual.
Let's lighten it up and talk about how bad it is.
Let's talk about the actual. Well, so before because there's a lot that's bad in this movie. But is there anything that works for you?
I guess everything I just said.
Okay.
Just the tone. I got a phone call.
Oh my goodness.
The tone is spot on, and it's effective, I guess, at selling that kind of hysteria, due to the natures of what the virus is and the unknown and everything I just said. Yeah, that's pretty much I shared what I liked about it in terms of what it was good at doing. I think
that there's a series of like a sort of a oneer that they have in Philadelphia where they the police officer shoots himself in the head, and then you follow like the gun as like a series of people shoot themselves in the head. Like that was a cool shot.
I think that was really effective.
The only thing that
at kind of just showing it in action, because the cold open, you don't really. It's kind of it feels almost supernatural, or like this girl. You see it through the eyes of her losing her mind, which is part of the effects.
Yeah.
But with that oneer, you saw it how it plays out, I guess, in a more.
I really wish this is a movie
sobering way, I guess.
Yeah, and especially because you kind of know what's happening right now, so you have this like dread, and everybody's like sort of like frozen, and you're like, oh god, they're gonna shoot themselves in the head, and it's weird because it all is so also dispassionate.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think I regret is that I already watched this movie, so I already knew.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the stuff wasn't as impactful as I feel like.
Yeah, this was my first time
as it could have been, because I think I probably watched it in like 2011 or something like that, just as like I'm watching this movie because it's out or it's been out, and so like, and I've also like read it or read so many articles and stuff about it that I was like, I mean, I know, I get it, but it was interesting to go back and rewatch it. So I just like feel like in the beginning, without knowing even that opening sequence, the opening like the title crawl, very Hitchcockian, by the way, which is one of the things I did like. Is it's like, oh, blue sky, and then it starts to get stormier and like windier and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Me knowing what it's about and have like seen the stuff. It's like, okay, I gotcha.
I guess I do have other things I like about the movie.
Tell me.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I like the way M Night movies look.
Okay.
Across all his movies I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'm not schooled enough in cinematography or the technical film or whatever that goes into the look of it to understand it, I guess, completely. Yeah. But I like the way it looks. I like his framing for the most part. Sometimes it's odd. Sometimes you're wondering what the hell is going on. Why was that decision made? But even then, the quirkiness, I guess, is just, I don't know. I don't know why I like the cinematography of his movies. I don't know how much of an influence he has on that. I don't know if he uses the same cinematographer. I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, but I know that I like it. And I guess it just feels super grounded. And
it does.
It has like a slice of life neorealism kind of vibe to it always.
Yeah.
And I think I like that. I kind of like it takes things and you kind of drone along with it, but it's interesting enough for some reason. And it never really is that interesting though. But I don't know. It works for me.
He does love to use news stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that he does a good job of, and I think it's part of like the whole vision of his stuff.
Yeah.
Is he does a good job of making the world, making the spaces that the characters are in feel real.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is like, again, like the cinematographer or the production designer, but it's like, they all feel pretty good, pretty fluid. Like we're actually here in these people's lives doing this stuff. So yeah, I get that.
I mean, he's constantly makes Pennsylvania seem like a place that would be kind of like comfortable to live in. There's something very comforting about the setting of his Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
He lived in a very rich part of Philadelphia.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has a very positive relationship with Philadelphia, and I think we're seeing his vision of it and the positivity and the warmth he's experienced with it.
Have you ever landed in Philadelphia in an airport?
Yes.
They fucking love it. Like, there's like, if you go down, they're like, hey, fucking M Night Shyamalan City. They got all of his posters. There's like I went through the oh my gosh, like the walking bridge thing.
Yeah.
Or like the underneath
named
tunnel.
after Christopher Walken.
And it's just like fucking, and it's just like,
I thought for a second I was like, well, I guess they have all the M Night stuff around, so maybe Christopher Walken's from Pennsylvania. I don't know. He's a weird accent. Maybe it was a thing named after him. So I wasn't just being a smart ass. I was like, oh, that could be. Could that be a thing? Anyway, sorry. Go on.
No. But it's just like all of his posters are there, and there was 2 different like tunnels where all of his posters were there, and I was like, why the fuck? Like, these movies are old. Why do we give a shit about? Oh, he's like, he grew up here.
Yep, just hanging on to it.
Oh, got it.
I mean, he has. I mean, I guess it can turn into a M Night conversation because it's always an interesting one to have eventually. So maybe we'll save that for later.
Well, I mean, let's.
Or you just we can just jump into that.
Because that will kind of like lead into my my biggest point is like M Night Shyamalan. Like, you know, he has some of his tropes and stuff that he leans on, but for all intents and purposes, like he's a pretty good. Like I would say he's a good director.
Yeah.
And, you know, he has maybe some of his dialogue is a little bit stilted. But like
I think it's a combination of the way his dialogue is also shot.
Yeah.
Like, I think if someone different were to direct his dialogue, it would still feel stilted. But I think it's a killer combo of him directing and shooting and having written this dialogue.
Yeah. But I think that this movie, like, I mean, is it poorly, like, is it poorly acted? Is it poorly directed? Or is it poorly written? Or, I mean, clearly it's, you know, it takes...
I think it's a combination of poorly directed, wrong fits. I think Mark Wahlberg's fine. I think he's versatile enough. But I don't... And Zooey Deschanel flirts with being the right actor for this character. but she felt the most off to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it comes down to actor, director, and writer in that regard. But I think everything else, I don't know.
But I also wonder too, because there's this whole like B plot of like that she, like that we don't learn until later, where it's like that she cheated on him, or like cause
she got dessert with a guy.
She got dessert with the guy, and then told him she was like, she lied to him. It's like maybe it's like an emotional cheating type situation. I don't want to like undercut it or say it's like a bad thing or, you know, misrepresent her feelings or whatever. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like her character feels like really weird.
Yeah.
Like I don't like that's one of the things that I have.
Her character is like she's quirky and like.
Is she quirky or is she just quiet?
I don't know. I think she's just quiet, but it's Zoe fucking Deschanel, so of course your brain is thinking quirkiness, and then the little girl that they're with is named Jess. Yeah. And whenever they said Jess, that kept fucking me up because of
because of New Girl.
Yeah.
But it's like I never for once believed that she would cheat on him.
No.
Like again, you can have different goals in a relationship, and like, you know, that'll like lead to like some conflict or whatever. But they like I never once believed it that she, because they made it about like that she was cheating, and then it was about dessert, and it wasn't. It just never felt real. Like
I never felt like their relationship was actually at odds or at risk, and clearly the vibe was that like they're working through it, and like. Yeah, so I guess they were just working through it. I mean, that's when we came into when they were working on their relationship, and all we learned is that you could keep working on it because a relationship's a hard thing, and that's what it is.
So
but it's bizarre.
But it's just like there's no like that's kind of the whole issue with the movie is that there's kind of no conflict with anything because yes, there's a toxin in the air that's making people kill themselves. And, you know, everyone's able to figure out how to shoot themselves in the back of the head, you know, which is something I know that I said I liked that shot.
No, it's from the front. Those are entry wounds.
Okay.
Yeah, so like an entry wound, it's the exit where it blasts out.
Okay.
From a head or a chest or whatever. That's where the damage goes.
Okay, all right. So actually, now I rescind my negative comment about that because I was like, how are they shooting themselves in the back of the head?
No, yeah.
It makes more sense how you're saying it. And I apologize, M Night Shyamalan, for doubting you, and that's a product of my own just like distrust of this movie.
Yeah, there's like tons of like ballistic gel stuff online and like on like Discovery Channel shows, and all the time they shoot into the ballistic gel, and you look, and the entry wound is just a little
perfect
little hole, but then you can see the damage and the expansion through it and in the exit. Yeah, so that's why hollow point and tumbling bullets.
Yeah,
wasn't
that
dangerous.
like a whole thing that they changed the way that bullets are after World War because they like bounced around inside people. They changed it for like wars so that they would just pass through.
Yeah, like modern cartridges, like an AR-15 or AK, they're much more. They're meant for penetration, so you can have pass-throughs. But I mean, if it hits a bone or if it hits something vital, it'll bounce around regardless.
But yeah, The Happening is not a good.
Yeah.
Gun Corner with John.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a ballistic expert, but I think so. I mean, do we want to talk M. Night more?
I mean, I want to like
talk his good movies, his bad movies, or we want to talk about this movie, why what's weird about it.
Here, I just want to kind of go through because we could talk about M. Night Shyamalan, but I really want to hit. I have a lot of qualms that I have with this movie because again, I think it ties into that he is a better director than this movie. I think he's also a better writer than this movie. It feels like he changed direction, like he didn't want to have Alma, Zoe Deschanel's character, be that bad of a person.
Yeah.
And so like he didn't have her like fully cheat on him. And like it just everyone seems.
Well, I think maybe. And I'm gonna get into his brain and assume this. Maybe maybe he is that consciously a neo-realistic guy, and he didn't like introducing her as being a bad person or having cheated is a very simple story dynamic to introduce. That's interesting. But if it's just a everyday kind of meh relationship, then that just fits into the monotony of what actual life is, and then makes this I'm dropping a lot of key words here, but juxtaposing that next to a mass hysteria event makes it more relatable and scary.
Yeah.
Because of that.
But I think then that's where, because I agree, where it's like, yeah, that's much more realistic. Mm-hmm. But then I think that it's a failure of directing, because he's like, it's directed so that it's much more. It's
very dramatized.
Yeah, it's like way over the top.
Yeah.
And if it was kind of this slow burn, like they have different goals in life, it's like that's like a slow burn. Like they still like each other. Mm-hmm. It's very much played over the top, and that that's his directing. So that's for me. That's where it's like, okay, yeah, because I agree. It's like, yeah, I think that playing it down, playing stuff more like, oh yeah, hey, it's just like, it's not like this big over the top thing like in Signs.
Well, it feels like a soap opera that isn't self-aware.
Yeah, or it's not going far enough to be a soap opera.
Yeah.
Because in a soap opera, you're like, oh, you cheated on me with your brother's sister, who actually then became had amnesia and then was a harpy, and then it's like, oh my God, but I still love you after all this time. I just like the whole movie thing. I have a whole list. My favorite moments is this scene of Mark Wahlberg being like inappropriate as a high school teacher, where he's like, "Hey, sexy guy,
oh yeah,
you're not gonna be sexy forever. You better fucking think about some bees. You don't think about bees, you're not gonna be sexy."
He does bring it around there. He's like, "Hey man, I'm just fucking with you."
Yeah, he does, but it's also like, and it's not even that, but
the kid's like, "Okay, cool. I'm still hot.
Cool. I'm still gonna be hot." John Leguizamo he's a good actor and a good performer, but he's playing a weird version of the sassy friend in a rom-com.
Yeah.
Like in that whole train station scene.
Yeah, that was really bizarre.
It was just like
there's many times in this movie that it feels like this was directed by aliens trying to replicate humans.
Yeah.
Or like the whole Mark Zuckerberg joke, like lizard people. It's like lizard people fucking directed this movie at times.
It is like someone like M Night Shyamalan put all of his scripts into a bot and was like, "Hey, write an M Night Shyamalan movie."
Yeah, I think that's what this is.
Or
is a joke.
Yeah,
so the guy goes in the lime pit and just gets his arms ripped off.
That's one of my issues too with the whole like inhibiting the self-preservation neurotoxin thing.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, and it inhibits it would just make people reckless. Yeah, again, I don't know exactly. Again, we're playing with it's science fiction, but it's like if it inhibits like people's self-preservation, it's like, well, it just means that I'm gonna drink too much and then get alcohol poisoning, or I will jump.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that I'm gonna go out and be like, I need to die.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm also just like kind of needlessly poking holes in something
It's a stupid movie with a sci-fi.
Exactly.
Sci-fi hook, or not hook, gimmick.
But the whole train station scene is so fucking weird, where she, like, John Leguizamo is like, he's being the sassy friend in a rom-com, and then she's like, "Can I talk to you? Can I talk to you?" And they take a step back.
Yeah, and then she's like, that was our personal stuff. Why'd you have to do that?
He's my friend. He guessed.
Yeah. And then she's like, she's like on the verge of tears. I'm going to go sit by myself. Bye. And like,
can you tell your dad? And can you tell your dad to give me my ticket, please? And it's like, the little girl does nothing. And the dad, like,
yeah, the train station. I mean, if you can find that on YouTube,
it's so good.
You should have watched this movie beforehand. Just it makes.
I really do think that this, like, the hot dog man.
That's good.
The fucking hot dog man is my.
Hot dogs get a bad rap.
They get a bad rap. They have a good shape, a lot of protein, and it's like, you like hot dogs, right? And everyone's just kind of like, I don't fucking give a shit about hot dogs.
Well, that's the most that's the lizard people directing the movie. Like, what the fuck?
But it's like here's an attempt, and again, here was an attempt to humanize this person.
in a
He likes-
monotonous way.
He is a plant person who likes hot dogs. Then that's his fucking character defining
That's the
trait.
most we have of him is that he's a plant man that really likes hot dogs.
And he's not an expert too. And that's I thought it's like everyone. He's just like a guy who owns a nursery. He's not like a ethnobotanist or whatever. And then just oh my gosh, the boarded up house scene. Was just like
weird.
Because there's this whole moment where he's like.
So I guess the context for those who haven't seen it, they're on the run on foot. They split apart because they realize the neurotoxin
targets bigger groups.
Yeah, so whatever the biology is there. So they break off, and it's Zooey Deschanel, Mark Wahlberg, the little girl, and these two teenage boys. And they eventually get to some boarded up house, and they're like, "Hey, we need food. The little girl's hungry.
She's hungry."
And all of a sudden, the two teenage boys start like going like
real aggro.
They just they full on Hulk out, and they're like, "Let us in, pussy!" And they just start yelling.
We're gonna kick your ass.
Yeah,
it's like show your faces.
They just turn full edgy teenagers, calling them pussies and telling them they're gonna kick their ass. And these scared people inside, and in the countryside with guns, no surprise, stick their guns out and shoot these teenagers. They're just like, what the fuck?
They just gun down these fucking idiots.
And then they're like, because the kids are being, I mean, they didn't deserve to get shot because of this, but they were being the vocal assholes.
Yeah.
So then these two people are like to the rest of them like, get out of here.
Get out of here.
It's just like, what the fuck? Like that escalated very specifically and quickly.
Yeah, it felt like so fast.
You could have given warning shots. I bet. Any teenager who got a warning shot at them would be like, okay, fuck this.
Because guns are so loud. I don't think that people who watch movies who have not shot gun.
Yeah. They're loud
guns
shit.
are so loud. Guys, guns are so loud.
Yeah.
Even if they stuck the barrel of that gun out and like fired it past his ear, it's like it would be like getting slapped in the face.
Yeah, there's a concussion blast from the air being broken.
Like gun are so loud.
Yeah.
But that whole scene, like even like Mark Wahlberg coming up and they're rocking on the swing set,
yeah.
and he's like, maybe we shouldn't do that, and she's like, I told her just for a little bit. I hope it's okay. And it's like we've got these shots of the tree, and it's like we've got like it's just the nails in the tree, and we have shots of the nails in the tree, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's coming? We don't want to make the trees angry.
I think I love so they again the same group with the teenagers before the boarded up house. They find a model home.
Yeah.
And they make a whole big thing of like all the stuff in here's fake, and you're like, whoa, is this supposed to be an Indiana Jones nuclear blast?
Yeah.
Like they hint at like something's afoot, but it's just a model home.
It's just
but
a model home.
But the way it's directed and the way the characters are talking about for a split second, you're like, whoa, is something weird happening?
Well,
but
so what is important about it is that they're adding houses in this unsettled area. And so that's like what that's referring to. And there's also like there's a shot of a sign that's like, you deserve this, as they're like running past as like people are getting shot.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, but it also is like, okay, that's pretty. I feel like there's a way we could have done that differently. Maybe.
Well, either way, Mark Wahlberg is talking to a fake plant.
He's talking. That is a fucking great
which
scene.
is awesome because of there's the whole Mark Wahlberg SNL skit of him talking to animals, talking to farm animals, and I'm like, is this really self-aware joke or something? Like, what is this?
Well, I don't know what the timeline is. It's like, did that come out after or before?
I don't know. I hope after. I hope that SNL skit was a result of this, but it's even also still just as good.
It's still
that it existed in a world where it already happened.
Yeah, I'm very I like Mark Wahlberg's character in this, but also,
yeah, in terms of an everyday man who really, because he's a science teacher, but he's not like a genius. He's not above his. He's not like a Walter White or anything. Like he's a very average dude.
He's just a guy,
and he plays a really good average dude, I guess, in this movie.
And I think too, like again, going back to what I said last podcast about when we were talking about watching this movie, is like, it seems like he got the pages the day of, and he's just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? Like with just a lot of the stuff, especially with my favorite sequence, which is the old lady house at the end, where it's just the weirdest thing that I think that I have.
I feel like the old lady house was put in there to have scary moments in the trailer.
Yeah.
To sell the movie a certain way.
Or
because it's more of a disaster movie, but I bet they sold it as a horror movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I don't know. It's just there's so much about this movie that feels like one of those indie movies that's like every set piece or every scene is like a different like, hey, here's this element of what my message, and here's one like aspect of it, and it's like, I guess like the thing is like it affects everyone. So even if you seclude yourself and isolate yourself, eventually you'll have to deal with this disaster, because that kind of goes into
Or it could be like the humanity being shitty to nature and blah blah blah. It impacts everyone.
Yeah,
not just the people in the city or the suburbs. And I think that kind of the shit that happens in our environment because of us impacts everyone. Maybe is
and then it's like
jumping off what you're saying.
Yeah, because then it's like, what is she saying? Like, is there some deeper meaning whenever she's like, I know, like as like I guess country
context
person.
Again. So the three remaining people, they find an old lady house. A house with an old lady. She's isolated.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the context. But yeah.
All right, and then Mark, I'll just give you the whole scene because it's beautiful. They walk up and they're like, "Wow, it's a house. It doesn't look like there's any power there. Maybe someone's home." Mark Wahlberg walks up to the porch, and there's an old lady there, and she's sitting on the porch, and they didn't see her, and she's like, "Well, I guess I see you eyeing my lemon drink."
Lizard people again.
I guess the polite thing for me to do is to offer you dinner. And she says it's so mean and so angry. And Mark Wahlberg is, again, you can't see my face, but he's just like it's a mask of confusion as both Mark Wahlberg and the character that he plays tries to piece together what is happening.
What am I supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to react to this? M Night, are you sure this is how you want her delivering this line? And then she walks in the house and is like, "I'm not gonna ask you again."
Yeah.
And it's like, and then
there's a dinner scene.
There's a dinner scene, and it's nice, sort of.
Yeah, they chat. She's kind of quirky. She's like, oh,
here's the history of the plantation. They housed slaves that ran away from over here, and you're like, oh, nice, that's a good thing, yeah. And then the little girl reaches for like a cookie, and the old lady is like, no.
Well, no, so the vibe's even better. Also, to clarify, it was in Pennsylvania. It was a runaway house, not a plantation where slaves were.
Yeah.
So that's why it was positive, just in case I was misunderstood.
That's reasonable.
But then she starts talking about the relationship between Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel, and like, oh, who's chasing who, and like, it's kind of cute. And like Mark Wahlberg's all smitten and bashful.
I'm chasing her for sure.
It's just
she doesn't love me as much as I love her.
And that moment breaks when she hits the girl's hand because she's reaching out for a cookie, and she's like, don't be an assuming brat.
Don't take
like
things that aren't yours or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
But then she gives her the cookie later, like, it's okay. Now it's on my terms, you child.
Yeah. And then, but then later in the evening, she like stands in her nightgown and she's like, I hear you in there, planning on stealing from me, planning on murdering in the middle of the night.
I mean, I guess maybe she's a representation of a type of hysteria.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, hysteria is is a central theme of the movie.
Yeah.
So maybe to her, that house is her world. So she's being hysterical, where to someone that lives in Philadelphia, a big city that's interconnected, your world's so much bigger that your hysteria is related to a lot more around you.
Yeah.
Where your spouse is, where whatever's happening, where you're trying to go, stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not saying I'm just trying to devil's advocate explaining it.
Yeah, justify the fucking weirdness of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird sequence, and then again, it just leads me to more questions about just the effectiveness of the toxin, where she like, it's like, is it mind controlling her? Because later on, she gets like the toxin, and then she like headbutts the windows so that like the wind can come in, and it's like, if your goal is to kill yourself as quickly as possible, why is that the choice? Especially if it's like you were breaking it down into an animalistic thing where it's just like, oh, here I go dying again. Why would you slam your head into the windows? Like, why would you care?
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's a science fiction thing, and it's built for entertainment.
If she want to kill herself, she should, by hitting her head on something, she should be hitting the stone wall.
Yeah, or she
that
breaks.
Her house is made out of, not the glass that could break. And she would, or maybe she's trying to fuck them over. I don't. But
then that like is like there's how much control has the other people had? Like it just pokes holes in. True. And again, I think
I was saying I think she was in there for to sell the movie as a horror film.
Yeah,
in the trailer.
Because again, why does she break the second window? If she breaks the first window, then she's got pieces of glass big enough that she can just stick in her neck or stick in her leg artery, the big one that kills you real fast.
Femoral, I think.
Femoral.
Yeah, I think one interesting moment is when they go to this 5 Points intersection, and everyone's coming from different directions. Like, there's people dead back there. So the idea is like, well, we can't go anywhere. We're stuck here. And there's this military police officer. He's a private first class, I believe. But like, the fact that he is the authority figure they rally around is interesting. I wonder if I was with 25 people during a hysteric event, and there was a private first class or private. Yeah. Would we rally around him? Or because in most cases they're young, they have training and they have procedure and stuff. Yeah. But I would see them almost on the same playing field in this situation. So I don't.
Especially if he's separated from his unit and he doesn't have any like gear or anything.
And he's not the character himself is not very confident. So it's like, is this bad writing and bad understanding? Yeah. Or is it like, or is it analyzing or not analyzing? Or is it commentating on authority and how people look to authority? And he's a uniformed man, you know? Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's interesting or stupid about this movie is that you could kind of be like, this movie is stupid. Or you're like, or is it doing, like, this movie is like riddled with that sort of like, and that's like a Shyamalanian thing where it's like, oh, does it mean something more? Is he saying that the military wouldn't be actually that much of a help? Is this one man representative of the entire military? And then like in the section where he's kind of it does feel like an essay on like crisis or hysteria, because in the section where they find the gun, the wind gets them, which is a whole other thing. We can get into that in a second.
Running away from wind.
Is Mark, they're like, Mark Wahlberg, what should we do? And he's like, I don't know, give me a second. And they're like, Mark Wahlberg, we have to do something. Well, why are you all looking at Mark Wahlberg? If he is clearly locking up and panicking, he is not your leader. In a fucking crisis situation, like, fucking let him go. Yeah. Like, let him have his panic attack and not know what to do. And move on. Yep. Or keep going. Like, again, I don't know.
Well, so, again, they meet all these people, this crossroads, and they're like, oh, we need to go on foot. And so they're on foot, they're walking around, and all of a sudden it's evident that I think they split up for a number of reasons. I don't know. But they split up enough where they're still close. Yeah. They realize that the group over there is infected. Yeah. And they start hearing gunshots.
Well, because the private he's the first effective, and he's like, my gun is my thing.
Yeah, so he has a gun because he's a military guy. Yeah. And then so Mark Wahlberg's troop of people, they're over to the left, and they're like, oh my God. We have to. So they assume that the pheromones or the toxins are over there on the other side of the hill. So they're like, shit, we need to outrun the wind. So they run away, and the wind becomes personified as this monster with the wind blowing against trees and the sound design. And it's just it's like Mark Wahlberg, Zooey Deschanel running away from the wind.
Which, again,
and it's the goofiest fucking shit.
So goofy. It just doesn't make any sense either, because it's like the wind is there. The trees don't control wind. I mean, I'm freezing up here. I'm Mark Wahlberging. Just give me a second.
Well, I
just don't think it's possible.
I think it's just the hysteria. It's the misinformation, which I guess to parlay that into just what we're going through today is, you know, coronavirus, you have the misinformation about its origins. Was it bats? Was there a wet market? Was it made in a lab? Like all these crazy concepts and theories. And then you also have like if you hold your breath for 14 seconds and you don't cough, then if you do that every morning, you'll know you don't have COVID.
Yeah.
Or
which has been disproven.
Yeah. Or
for anybody who thinks about trying that, it's been disproven.
Or if you drink Lysol or whatever Trump said, or
inject disinfectant into your skin, or whatever,
or a regular flu shot,
or hydroxychloroquine, which again, it's like it's all.
Or toilet paper. Hell, that toilet paper was.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
No, it's like none of it is substantiated, but in our need to do something or protect or something, it's like we are like, well, we're gonna buy all the shit paper up so that we can do that good.
The crazy thing about that whole fucking scenario is, I guess the issue is like going out to get it. I guess that's why people bulk or stocked up. But toilet paper is a just-in-time product, and like that's why there wasn't stores of it, mass storage of it. So if like we just chilled and bought it as we needed it, it would have never been an issue. I was driving by Christian's neighborhood actually early on in this, and his neighbor, a couple doors down, had their garage door open. It was a one-car garage. All I saw were paper products. And I was like, "You fucking asshole."
Yeah.
And the joke's on them. They're going to have a fucking garage full of toilet paper for a year and a half,
and
2
we'll
years.
still be able to go get it.
Yeah, like you can go get it fine now.
I mean,
there was some speculation that it was going to disappear again with crazy civil unrest if Trump had won, or I guess maybe whatever unrest Trump creates with his fighting the fucking results.
Well, and that's the other thing too with the just talking about misinformation is like
exactly. I mean,
with the election where it's like just kind of the picking and choosing of facts, and we see in this movie they latch on to that it's the wind, and they latch on to it's the trees that are coming to get them, so they fixate on that, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
And so then they feel like because there is a solution or a presentable fucking
something tangible,
or not even something tangible, because the wind isn't tangible, but it's like there's something that they can point to, be like, that's the issue, which again goes back to it kind of taps into a lot of like the post 9/11 where we needed our Nazis. We needed a Hitler, and that's why we got bin Laden, and he was a bad guy, and it's good that we got him, but there's also so many other, like, it's much more like a Hydra where there is so many different heads, and it's so much more amorphous, where we're afraid of this thing. We're afraid of terrorisms, but we can't be afraid of, it's not a country, it's not an ideologue, it's just people who are mad at America.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of this movie is kind of maybe touching on.
I think so, and I think it's good at dealing with hysteria and misinformation.
Yeah.
So much maybe just because simply that's what drives the narrative, and that's why it's good at it, or that's why it's hard to miss or whatever. But I
wish that it was actually about hysteria and misinformation rather than an eco-thriller.
Yeah.
Because I think it fails as an eco-thriller because there are no rules and you don't establish any of the science, or even like a fake degree of science.
Yeah.
Because it is so much more about the hysteria and the effect of the everyday person on it rather than the science.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's solved. There's nothing that they do to solve the thing.
Yeah, it's just like it's a mass event, and it's like these events, they come and go really fast, and you're like, is that a real thing? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And I think they allude to, like, there's shit that happens in the water where all the fish die and they beach themselves, and it just happens and it's over.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening but it's on the air. It's in the air on land.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of interesting concept to play with, and I guess that's essentially what they do. But
so there's a theory that I read, because I was like trying to figure out my main goal. I was trying to figure out what was going on in M Night Shyamalan's life when he wrote this movie, to try and like was he going through a divorce, or
Did
was
you research it?
Yeah, it's just it doesn't seem like anything. But so one of the things that it is, or there's a theory, is that this is like the best movie to support for like intelligent design. Which are you familiar with intelligent design at all?
I feel like I've heard it, but
Intelligent design is like a pseudoscientific argument, and this is I'm citing Wikipedia here. Yes, I am a scholar. Intelligent design is a pseudoscientific argument for the existence of God, presented by its proponents as evidence-based scientific theory about life's origins. So it's like the whole like fucking B story at the beginning, where essentially it's like, oh yeah, it's basically like a creationist way of getting around evolution, where it's like, yeah, evolution happened, but God pick and chose how things happen, because there's no way that it could be just chaos.
Yeah.
Which is like the whole fucking beast story, where he is like, yeah, it's not just pollution, because it's not like we don't find the bodies.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh, it's not this thing either because blah blah blah. And when the sexy boy is like, when sexy boy is like, hey, they're running away from the wind now in the background, and it's just very funny. But the sexy boy is like, it's an act of nature. We'll never fully understand it.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you're right. There you go. It's kind of like it's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a scientific way of doing around that, which is funny because, apparently that's one of the reasons that M Night Shyamalan, which again, I feel like I'm maybe saying his name wrong. Shyamalan.
I mean, I've heard it as M Night Shyamalan.
But that's one of the reasons he wrote this movie with Mark Wahlberg in mind, because Mark Wahlberg is he believes in Jesus, and M Night Shyamalan, a lot of his stuff deals with faith, and I think it's weird. It's like both in my like weird column and also like in my good column, because
About him as a director.
Well, and about him as a director, because it's like, I don't mind it if it's like, here's the way, because that's essentially what movies are. It's like, if this is how you think of the world, if this is how you see the world, and you're presenting it in an entertaining package, it's like, give it to me,
I mean, it's definitely not like a Christian movie by any means.
It's like a sneaky, like, it's like this is his belief system, which I think is interesting. And so it's like, I kind of like, because like, Signs, the Mel Gibson is having a crisis of faith. Oh my gosh, you haven't seen Signs?
No.
Oh my gosh, Signs is so much better than this movie.
Yeah.
Unbreakable.
I like Unbreakable.
Bruce Willis is having a crisis of faith in himself.
Yeah.
In the last Airbender.
God, I forgot that was M Night.
Yeah, man, he wrote, produced, and directed that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we need to do the Avatar stuff.
I know.
I think nothing will be more fun than watching the show and then going in and watching the first movie. So you can understand how bad it is. Yeah. Because it's bad. It's very bad.
Well, I remember
as isolated, but knowing how good the TV show is and how tightly it was there. Like, yes, he had to wrap a 5 to 6 hour story of content into an hour and a half. But
hey,
Ragnar. We have a new dog in the office, Ragnar, and we just hear like dragging plastic.
He's just getting into a trash can or something.
What was I saying?
About Avatar: The Last Airbender, trying to get a whole season into one.
But the movie like just had a bunch of weird so the character's name is Aang. He calls him Ong. Okay, whatever. But there's yin and yang. There's like two spirits, and they're yin and yang.
Yeah.
And it is yin and yang in the show. It's yin and yang. And it's fucking yin and yang. But M Night calls it yin and yang. It's like, oh, come on now. What the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do here?
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I remember I haven't seen any of the Avatar, the series show.
Yeah.
But I did watch the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it. But I remember watching it with a friend of mine who had watched the show, and he had like pirated the movie or something like that, and he was like, yeah, I was like over at his house, and he was like, yeah, I got these movies, and I just downloaded Avatar, and yes, I apologize for pirating a movie or whatever.
Not a victimless crime.
And I just remember him being like, I was like, oh yeah, you like this show? I have never seen it. I wanted to, And he's like, you've never seen the show, and you like this is how you're gonna watch Avatar? I was like, yeah. And he was like, no, let's not. I was like, why not? You want to watch? Like, I've seen all the other movies that you have. Let's watch this one. And he was like,
all right.
Because I guess, he probably knew already that it was
trash.
Like not exactly what he wanted.
I will say the art direction and costume design was mostly pretty good in that movie, but that's about the only fucking good thing.
How is again, I haven't seen it, but I think that's one of the things as I've gone back and like kind of like watched some of like the Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I've already said this before, but how disappointed I am in the dual spell casting, where they're just like flinging
the second one,
and just all of them.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember.
Where they're just flinging energy back and forth at each other, and then in the books it's like, she conjured thick black snakes that bound her wrists, and they had to and it's like that's some fucking I want to see that. I want to see like the individual duels happening with like people's different magical styles rather than just like energy blast, deflect, energy blast. My energy is green. My energy is red.
It just becomes a laser duel back and forth.
Just have lightsabers at that point.
Yeah. So what do we want to? How do we want to? We got, I guess, 8 minutes till an hour.
Well,
I feel like we could talk about a lot, but I also don't need to.
Here's some of my favorite lines.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
How does in the very beginning she's like, oh, I forgot where I am in the book, and then she tells her where she was in the book. It's like, how does she know where she is in the book? Is she reading? Are they reading at the same time?
When is this on the train?
Just in the very beginning, in the opening, they're both at Central Park.
Oh yeah.
And the one girl is like, hey, I forgot where I was in the book. And they're like, you're where the killer finds out that... And it is some sort of like, oh, here's like an expositional thing. She finds out that the killer was never even there in the first place. Oh, you're right. Ha, ha, ha. How do you know where I am in the book?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Lizard people.
When they're all leaving Mark Wahlberg's classroom, he looks at them and he goes, hey, guys. And they look back at Mark Wahlberg and are like, what, Mr. fucking Mark Wahlberg, science teacher? And he looks at them and he's like, nothing. And it's like, what the fuck was that? I don't even know what you were gonna say. Like, what were you even gonna say? John Leguizamo's character coming up, he's like, oh, statistics make people feel better. And so there's one point he's like, hey, do you want me to tell you the chances of it already hitting Philadelphia? Or whatever, it was like a 62%. It's like, where are you coming up with that number? You're literally just pulling a number that is actually a pretty high number. It's a 62% chance that it's hit. That's a pretty high number.
Yep.
That is almost 2/3 of a chance.
It only introduces that as a moment of him to comfort people in the Jeep that he's in before they die. And it's like, it's not even like a clever come back around. I don't know what the right wording is there.
It doesn't. No, there's no tie-in with anything.
Yeah.
And then there's when Zooey Deschanel's like, yeah, we'll watch your daughter while you go find your wife. And he's, don't take my daughter's hand unless you mean it.
Oh yeah, it was like, because I had only seen the wind running scene, and like they're holding hands very tightly, and she's like, don't let go of my hand, don't. And I was like, and so when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, so this must be like, this little girl must have like security issues, like she'll just hold on to Zooey Deschanel's hand the whole time. But no, it's just a weird lizard people directorial moment.
It's interesting. And then obviously we've already talked about the hot dog man.
Yeah,
we're packing hot dogs for the road. Oh, hot dogs get a bad rap. They got a good shape and they're full of protein. And he's just obsessed with hot dogs. They're like, oh, and then later in the car, there's binoculars in the car from when you were spying on the neighbors. What the fuck? That the wife says that to hot dog man as they come across a road of clearly human bodies littering the road, and they're like, oh, we gotta fucking get the binoculars out to check and make sure. Calculus, a scene calculus when they're at the triangle stop, and all the people are converging at once, and the lady's on the phone with her daughter in Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And the daughter is like, I see in calculus. And it's like,
what is that? Like,
what?
I guess it's supposed to be just like nonsense. Like the brain is just spurting out whatever, and it's integrated whatever. And
then there's a moment that, could this really be happening? There's so many times like, I can't believe this is happening. Is this really happening? And it's the happening.
I mean, I guess I didn't even think about that. But honestly, I think that would be one of the most, I think that would be said a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it would be. And which is like,
I think there's like which I think there's a interesting kind of theory, or not theory, but concept of like, is the arrogance of the own time we live in. Like we think because of the pandemic, shitty president, that like now is the shittiest time to live in, but it's because we're living it, so it's super personal.
Prisoner of the moment.
Yeah, but it's like, no, there's been really fucking bad times to live in, and we're still pretty damn lucky right now.
I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, if we're going back into a second lockdown, and it's like, at least there's air conditioning and running water.
Yeah,
like
we're not in a cave. We're not worried about persecution. Running away from a secret police or from an emperor or whatever.
Yeah.
There's not the end of the world as we know it with war and
no one, for the most part, no one is actually being religiously prosecuted or persecuted.
At least in most of the world, I hope.
Here in America, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that hate crimes aren't happening.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's like a tricky thing to say.
Yeah.
But I think that, the people who are, a lot of the people who think that they're being persecuted are not actually being persecuted.
Yeah.
Like,
But with all that, kind of what I was introducing was the fact that how is this happening, I think would be said a lot in an event today. And I think people do see that even today with a fucking stupid president or a pandemic or whatever's happening.
I mean, you see that too if you see videos of people on 9/11 where they're like, they're in there. There's one famous one that I've seen that they're like, what's going on over there? And they've got their camcorder out looking, and they're like, oh, there must be a fire out there.
Yeah.
And because maybe they didn't see the first plane go in, and they're like, oh man, there must be a fire. That's pretty crazy. I wonder how they're like, and they're like watching it because they don't know what's going on. And then you can watch, like, you see them see the second plane go in, and it's like, they're like, oh no, what is happening?
God, I couldn't imagine witnessing that. I
mean,
think one of my teachers in college was there. She went to New York University. Is NYU in New York City?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they were
there. It's in Manhattan, I'm pretty sure. Someone will correct me, or someone won't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you want to keep going? You want to wrap this up with some reviews?
We can get to some reviews. Here's my weird stuff. Here's my cool stuff.
Yeah.
My cool stuff is following the gunshot.
On the oneer?
Yeah, the oneer. My second is nothing. Nothing is cool. And then the sneaky Christian film.
Yeah.
Which I have both in my cool and my weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. They have to outrun the wind.
Yeah, can't.
Is that possible? Do you know? As a man of science, John.
I'm not a man.
As a man of science.
I mean, I think you could be ahead of a gust, because there's a point that the gust of wind hasn't hit you, right?
Yeah.
So you can be ahead of that, as in, not where it is currently. But I don't know enough about air movement to know if you could constantly be ahead of it.
Yeah. Show your faces.
Yeah. So I don't know if you could outrun the wind. I don't know.
But particulates, I guess it's dispersal rate. Really, it's where does the source of origin come from with some sort of aerosol like that. Also,
I think when this kid gets shot, you can kind of see the exit wound kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you see the side where the bullet would have come out.
But this is also,
so that's a huge.
I mean, that's a rifle, and this is. That was a rifle. The other one was a shotgun.
Yeah. And he's talking to the.
He's like, "You're gonna be okay," or what? It's like,
dead
oh jeez.
Dead as heck. What do people have to say about this?
What do people have to
'Cause
say?
I feel like there's gonna be some memey reviews.
There's some. Give me a second to get to them. Stall for me. You gotta. Don't have my computer. I don't have it ready.
So Mark Wahlberg, am I right? No, I think he's really cool. Not really cool. He's a really interesting actor. I like a lot of the stuff he's in. So it's cool to see him in a fucking ridiculous movie that's just frankly stupid.
Do you think he's well cast
for this, or like
Yeah.
as an actor?
I guess maybe as an actor.
Yeah, I think he's a good. I think he transcends the blue collar role with other kind of roles pretty well. Like I think Chris Pratt does that pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Chris Pratt's starting to become more appealing to the conservative side of viewers, and less so I think mainly to the mischaracterization of him as a human.
Yeah.
And as I guess a Christian. Kind of it's like the Tim Tebow thing.
Yeah. I think it's even worse. I think it's we can talk about Chris Pratt. That's a whole thing where it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, you have like Mark Ruffalo defending him, and Mark Ruffalo is like he's an activist.
yeah.
And like he wouldn't deal with Chris Pratt if he was a conservative dingbat,
Yeah. I think
So
that's one of the things where they're like Chris Pratt's lack of saying something, because I truly think that Chris Pratt is he's like, I just want to act,
Yeah.
make money, do goofy stuff, and
Go hunting, worship, whatever.
Love my Jesus. That's kind of it. I just want to do.
He wants to go hunting.
I want to do my goofy stuff. I want to love the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I honestly I just don't think that he's that person.
No.
I don't think that I think he's like, yeah, I think Black Lives Matter. I'm pretty sure that he's like, so I just think that it's like, again, like you said, a mischaracterization where it's just like people are like his lack of saying anything, which again, you could also argue that, all it takes for evil to blah, blah, blah is not saying anything. So there's that as well. But I think that there's just like, he's just a movie star, guys.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Was like, if you have a platform, should you speak up? And I don't think you have to, but I think people with platforms should be able to speak up.
Yeah.
So I don't think like LeBron James should be shamed and the in air quotes shut up and dribble. I think that's not. I think
that's an interesting thing though, where it's like Michael Jordan, he has his famous Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yeah.
And is he a better person or not a better person? That's a hard thing, but it's like, does that, because LeBron James is obviously outspoken.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan is not outspoken. Does it change? Like, is there a responsibility for Michael Jordan to have spoken out? Does he change because of his status as Michael Jordan? Does he change the conversation?
Well, I think that's difficult.
In the late 90s.
Or that changes it because he was a world icon at that point. So it's like, even if he doesn't want to, and because he has a platform, he doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
He is the pinnacle of culture at that time.
But so I
don't know. That's a good question.
Because again, again, he comes out and he's like, he does the stuff in the late 90s. Maybe stuff starts happening earlier.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. That's an interesting question that someone with more knowledge of political science and socioeconomics and
public relations
and stuff should handle.
Yeah.
So let's read some reviews of The Happening.
Was that a good enough vamp?
I think it's a pretty good vamp. I was
like Mark Wahlberg, blue collar roles, Chris Pratt. Michael Jordan. We got that was like a weird string of.
I don't know. I thought it was good.
No, it was good.
So here's a 3-star review. Not sure why all the hate. If you can stomach the ridiculous premise, many better movies have dumber ones. The Happening is a perfectly serviceable doom porn thriller. The leads are likable enough, the effects and production value are better than the usual end-of-the-world flicks. I will put this up there against 2012 or The Knowing, although this is a much tighter flick. Focusing in on how it affects just the 3 people, that actually gives it a leg up that the story is more focused.
I agree with most things they said.
I almost agree.
Yeah.
I think that if it did do a better job of focusing on just the three people.
Yeah. Because it plays around with the news casters, and we do see it detach here and there. Like there's like we see like grannies with gas masks, and then we cut to
there's those guys
doom
in
preppers with AKs and stuff, and that pulls back, that contextualizes what's going on too much. And I think they can still learn from news.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where he walks up to an empty truck just to get some exposition from the radio.
Yeah.
And then the TVs are
there's
giving
a whole
exposition
scene where,
a lot. So it's like it plays with the idea, and I think it does it well enough to you get the right feeling from it. But I think it could have doubled down and would have been better. You know, it's kind of like The Road, like Cormac McCarthy, like that's so fucking focused. And I mean, it's good for a lot of other reasons, but that's kind of like a hallmark of that story is how focused it is on those two.
Yeah, I really think that if it isolated them more and also dealt with more of their interpersonal, because there's no conflict. Like we have this like little baby, maybe she cheated, maybe she didn't, oh she didn't, it's just dessert, and we kind of like fly past that.
Yeah.
And we don't really there's no growth from any of the characters. They don't reach anything. They don't break up at the end.
I mean, they just
like that would be like imagine that where they're like it's this marriage that is like not necessarily on the rocks or it's sort of on the rocks, and then this catastrophic event happens and they have to get through it.
Yeah.
But in getting through it, maybe they discover that they're not right for each other. Or because, I mean, we always see where it's like, oh, I do love you. And it's like, I think it would be more impactful if it's like, damn, I really like you, and I'm really glad that you're with me here on this journey, but damn, maybe not.
Yeah, I think in terms of their relation, the biggest kind of turnaround is that they realize that they do love each other. Even if it wasn't going to work out, though, that love would still be there.
Yeah.
But they say, I do love you, and I don't want to die without you. So in this moment of hopelessness, let's just go out together. And that's about what it comes to.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And I buy it.
But I think it
doesn't say anything in the larger scope of a story.
Well, and the scope is both too large and not focused enough.
Yeah.
Because it really needs to be focused on these three people. Like this review says that it's focused on these three people, but it is not. You know, even in the knowing, it's focused on Nicolas Cage and his effect on him.
Yeah.
Here's another review. It's a 4-star review. I tried to find good reviews for this because it has awful reviews. Yeah. I love this movie. I can't believe people gave it such bad reviews. It's one of my all-time favorite thrillers. It goes to show you can't always trust other people's opinions. You need to find out for yourself.
I mean,
Ragnar
I disagree with how they felt about the movie, but I think they had really salient points about kind of just what you like, you know, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, you got to fucking go see it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because, again, there's something to take away from every movie, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, even if a movie's awful like this movie, there's still something to take away from it.
Yeah, I think I took a lot away from this movie in terms of techniques and theming and ways of communicating things and layering things in, even if a lot of it wasn't on purpose. There's
a surprising amount.
Yeah.
Here's one of my favorite reviews. It's a very confusing review. Get ready.
Okay.
3-star review. Interesting movie with a scary plot. Mark Wahlberg is not great here, but a kid gets shot, so it's all good.
Oh.
Yep. That's a review.
What the fuck?
Yep. That's the review right there, bud.
I don't even want to... That'd be interesting when they jump in and psychoanalyze them, but...
Yeah.
I think they just like...
That's an edgelord right there.
Yeah, I think it's the edgelord. They like the perverseness, like it went there. I don't think teens dying is super taboo. I mean, mostly it's like 25-year-olds playing teenagers you see die, where these were actual teenagers playing teenagers dying.
Here's a 1-star review.
Yeah, I don't know.
This shouldn't have happened. I mean,
yeah, it shouldn't have, but I think there's the takeaways.
Well, but is a joke is like, the happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's it. That's the only reason. Here's a 5-star review. Tense, exciting, and compelling, packed with amazing performances and visual thrills. The Happening is easily Shyamalan at his best.
Whoa.
His directorial debut, The Sixth Sense, I don't think his directorial debut, pales in comparison to this masterpiece. Can't believe it has such a low approval rating.
Hey, they're on Cloud 9, and I'm happy for them.
You know what? I'm glad you like it. I do think that you should watch Sixth Sense again.
And Unbreakable. Even The Village is better.
The Village
than
is better. There's a better vibe in The Village. I mean, Split is really fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a 2.5-star review. Seeing people kill themselves. Wild plot.
That's it. What kind of review is that?
I guess we should take care of the planet before I start talking about calculus. See, that's another pretty good one. I definitely watched the movie because you're talking about calculus.
It's like it's a certified review, did by the product.
Yeah. Absolutely did. I love this 4-star review. I love this movie. I've seen it twice. It's like an extended movie version of the Twilight Zone episode. Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel are watchable for me in everything they do. I'm sure it had flaws as a major movie release, but I honestly was creeped out and had to look away at times. I just really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I think the funny thing is, good reviews on a bad movie are actually really endearing and wholesome.
Yeah,
and they bring up more good points about bad reviews on good movies. If that makes sense. But I think that's part of why I like it. It does feel like an extended Twilight Zone.
It does.
Because it's a scenario, it's a gimmick, and it's like, let's put some variables together: humans, suicide, pandemic, go. And it's kind of like the story and the M Night Shyamalan AI wrote with those variables, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like reading the good reviews of this bad movie is like also like, nice. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Here's a 4.5-star review. This is the last one.
All right.
The Happening is everything a typical bad M Night Shyamalan film is, but this one has a completely confused and out there performance by Mark Wahlberg that makes this film a must watch.
Yeah,
which is true.
Yeah, I think it is fun watching. I think his performance kind of transcends the character's place in the world of being confused.
Yeah,
of the actor being confused too.
They're both,
or you can at least read into it that way, which just makes it fun.
Yeah, I really do love the page. Like, all right, here are the pages for today, Mark. What? It's like, I'm not even gonna read these. He's just like, I'm not even gonna read these. Just
tell me what to say before each take.
I'm just gonna improvise.
Yeah. Well,
where's your review?
2.5 hot dogs out of 5.
Oh,
but it's a true 50 halfway. Like, good, not bad. I liked it. Some things I didn't like.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'm gonna give it 1.75 Dodger dogs. He's tearing into that trash. He's doing something. Is there food in that trash?
Yeah.
Hey, Ragnar. Hey.
I forgot that was it. Ragnar.
Oh, Ragnar. Now he's got
a.
Oh my God, he's got a cup.
He's got a cup of a smoothie.
He just watched him walk. He's got it by the fucking brim of it. He's got a cup and he just walked away like he fucking got the best thing.
Well, it's strawberry banana, so I don't think.
Oh my gosh,
that'd be bad. But yeah, so what was it? 1.75.
1.75 Dodger dogs.
Nice.
You know,
he's coming back from war, so we should wrap this up quick.
I love mustard. I'll probably put it on a potato roll because it's not good. I swear to fucking God, Ragnar.
He's digging the trash.
He's getting in that trash.
So guys, Stinky Popcorn Boys, catch us on Stinky Podcast. We did have someone recommend a movie, which I think we were going to do during December.
For sure.
Christmas movie, but Home Alone. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, you sent me the text.
It's in our text chat.
Oh, I'll get it first. Whoever gets it first. Thank you so much at Blind Chris Pinchin.
Thank you for that movie recommendation. We'll do that in December.
Definitely. I haven't seen Home Alone yet, which, you know, I'm a 29-year-old man.
And Die Hard. We're going to do Die Hard, which you haven't seen, so that'll be fun.
I know. I haven't. I've been saving them specifically for this podcast.
Exactly.
That's what my life has been. And, you know, as they say in Philadelphia, hey, I'm going to fucking hit that Santa with some batteries. Fuck Santa Claus. Go Phillies.